The light from the dazzling neon lights of downtown San Francisco reflected on the wet pavement after the rain. Parker Miller, a young lawyer, stood amidst the bustling crowd, feeling as if she were being swept into an uncontrollable whirlwind. She looked around, sensing that everyone was living in another world, where success and happiness were measured by beautiful photos and perfect status updates on social media. "Parker, are you listening to me?" The sharp voice of Mr. Thompson interrupted her train of thought. He was Parker's lawyer, who had accompanied her throughout the process of uncovering her grandfather's legacy. "We need to act right now. Your family is trying to sell the apartment that your grandfather left for both of you sisters." Parker felt as if she had been slapped in the face. That apartment was not just an asset, but also a place filled with sweet childhood memories. "Grandpa promised that it would be a place for us to return to, a place where we could find peace," she whispered, feeling a knot in her throat. "You need to face Jessica," Mr. Thompson said, his expression serious. "She is across the street, in a cafe. Go ask her about this." Parker turned to look at the cafe where Jessica often went. She saw her sister, with her shiny blonde hair and bright smile, chatting happily with a group of friends. That image caused Parker's heart to ache. Why had everything become so complicated? How could Jessica live in a world without worrying about what was happening around her? "Do you want me to go with you?" Mr. Thompson asked, but Parker shook her head. She needed to face the truth alone. As she stepped into the cafe, the warm atmosphere and the fragrant smell of coffee eased some of her anxiety. She approached Jessica, her heart racing. "Jessica, we need to talk," Parker began, her voice slightly trembling. Jessica looked up, and the smile on her face disappeared. "What is it, Parker?" she asked, her blue eyes sparkling with suspicion. "Grandpa left the apartment for us, but our parents are trying to sell it without telling you," Parker said, each word feeling stuck in her throat. "Do you know anything about this?" Jessica stared at Parker, her eyes revealing surprise and confusion. "No, I don't know anything. But if they want to sell, maybe that is the best decision for our family." "I don't understand," Parker replied angrily. "It's not just an asset, it's where we grew up, where Grandpa spent his life protecting us." Jessica took a deep breath, her expression growing cold. "Parker, you can't live in the past forever. We need to move on. Grandpa is gone, and we have to do what is best for ourselves." Parker felt a shock run through her body. "Do you really think selling the apartment is the best thing? Have you forgotten all the beautiful memories we have there?" Jessica didn't respond, but her gaze showed determination. Parker felt pain rising in her heart. The fact that her sister no longer understood the value of family made her feel more alone than ever. "You can't do this," Parker said, her voice growing weaker. "We need to protect Grandpa's legacy, protect what he taught us." But Jessica just shook her head, her eyes cold as the storm approached. "I can't look back. I won't let the past drag me down." Parker felt as if she were standing at a crossroads. She could continue fighting for the apartment, for the memories, or she could give up and let Jessica lead her life. But one thing was certain. She couldn't let her family be torn apart by wrong decisions. As Parker left the cafe, questions swirled endlessly in her mind. Did she have the strength to face the truth? Could she salvage her relationship with Jessica? And more importantly, could she protect her grandfather's legacy from her parents' wrong decisions? The city's lights shimmered and glimmered. But in Parker's heart, everything was left with emptiness and anxiety. She knew this fight was not just about a house, but about love, family, and the values she once believed in. And she would not give up without a fight. Parker stepped out of the cafe, her heart heavy with chaotic thoughts. She knew she needed to act, but didn't know where to start. The seaside apartment, which held so many beautiful childhood memories, had now become a symbol of division within the family. She decided to head straight to Mr. Thompson's office. where she could find the support and information she needed. When Parker walked into the office, the atmosphere inside was somewhat serious. Mr. Thompson was sitting in front of the computer, the light from the screen illuminating his face, highlighting the wrinkles and signs of fatigue. "Parker," he looked up, "you're back. Is something wrong? Grandfather left us a trust fund, but I don't know the details about it." "I need your help to find out," Parker said, her voice reflecting determination. "All right, I will help you," Mr. Thompson replied, but his gaze showed a hint of concern. "However, you need to be prepared for what's coming. Your family might not easily accept this." Parker nodded, feeling as if a storm was approaching. "I talked to Jessica. She has no intention of keeping the apartment. She thinks selling it is best for the family." "Jessica always has her own perspective," he said, shaking his head. "But you also need to understand that not everyone can see the true value of what your grandfather left behind." In the following days, Parker spent her time researching the trust fund. She found old documents, letters that grandfather had written to her and Jessica, emphasizing the importance of family and preserving the legacy. She felt as if her grandfather was speaking to her from afar, encouraging her to fight for what he believed in. One afternoon, while Parker was sitting in her apartment, she received a call from Jessica. "Parker, I need to see you." "It's important," Jessica's voice sounded somewhat strained. Parker felt a strange sensation rise in her heart. "What's going on, Jessica?" "We need to talk about the apartment." "I think there's a better way to resolve this," Jessica said, her tone sounding more serious than usual. Parker arranged to meet Jessica at a nearby bar. When she arrived, she saw Jessica already sitting in a corner, her face looking worried. "Sis, I don't want us to fight with each other. I've thought about this a lot," Jessica began. "Thought about what?" Parker asked, unable to hide her suspicion. "About selling the apartment. I don't want to just sell it, but I think we could turn it into a business, a cafe or an art space. That would preserve grandfather's legacy while also helping us make money," Jessica said, her eyes brightening with the idea. "Do you really think that's the solution?" Parker asked, feeling indignation rising. "That's not why grandfather left the apartment. He wanted us to have a place to come back to. But if we don't make money from it, we won't be able to maintain it." Jessica countered. "Do you understand that times have changed? We can't live in the past forever." Parker felt as if she was standing at a crossroads. She could feel the tension between the two sisters and the pain of seeing Jessica no longer cherish what grandfather had left behind. "You don't understand," Parker said, her voice becoming weak. "It's not just an apartment. It's a legacy, a place containing all our memories." Jessica was silent for a moment, but her gaze did not change. "Sis, I can't live forever with memories. I need to move on. We need to do something new." Parker felt as if an electric shock ran through her body. She couldn't believe that her sister could think like this. "Do you know how much grandfather sacrificed for that apartment? He dedicated his life to protect it, to preserve our memories." "The apartment can't live forever," Jessica said, her tone becoming firm. "I don't want us to live in the past. It just makes us suffer more. But if you sell it, we'll lose everything." Parker exclaimed angrily. "You can't just think about personal benefits and forget the value of family." The argument between the two sisters became increasingly tense. Parker felt as if everything was collapsing around her. She wasn't just facing Jessica, but also her own memories and emotions. "You can't do this, Jessica. We need to protect grandfather's legacy, protect what he taught us." Jessica stood up, her gaze cold. "If you don't want to cooperate, I will do this on my own. I can't let the past drag me down anymore." With that, Jessica left, leaving Parker standing there, feeling as if everything had shattered. Parker felt as if a storm was approaching, and she knew she couldn't just stand still. She needed to uncover the truth about the trust fund that grandfather had left behind, and she needed to prepare for what was coming. She wasn't just fighting for an apartment. She was fighting for family, for the values she once believed in. Determined to return to Mr. Thompson's office, Parker knew that this battle would not be easy. She needed to find a way to protect grandfather's legacy and to prove that family was not just about material possessions, but also about memories, love, and mutual support. When Parker sat down again with Mr. Thompson, she felt as if she were standing at a major crossroads. "Can you help me learn about the trust fund?" she asked, her heart full of determination. "Of course," he replied, his eyes showing understanding and empathy. "But you need to prepare for what's coming. Your family may not easily accept this." Parker nodded, feeling as if she were stepping into a battle not just for the apartment, but for the values she once believed in. She would not give up. She would fight for her grandfather's legacy and for what family truly represented. The evening light shone through the windows of the seaside apartment where Parker had grown up. A familiar and warm feeling filled her heart, but now, this place also carried pain and anxiety. Parker stood in the living room, where she and Jessica had once played, where their grandfather had told them stories about life. But now, this apartment was becoming a battleground for endless conflicts. Parker had spent many days researching her grandfather's trust fund. She found old documents, letters he had written to her and Jessica. Each page carried his nostalgia and love, but also contained secrets she had never known. Now, she needed to face the truth and decide whether to protect his legacy or not. "Parker." Mr. Thompson's voice rang out as he entered the apartment. "I found some important information about the trust fund. We need to talk right away." Parker turned around, a sense of excitement rising in her heart. "What did you find?" she asked. Her eyes focused on him. "The trust fund is not just a simple asset. It contains a special clause," he said, opening a thick stack of documents. "Your grandfather left a condition. If the grandchildren want to keep the apartment, they must prove that they can maintain and develop it as a family space, not just to sell it off." "What does that mean?" Parker asked, her heart full of hope but also full of anxiety. "It means you and Jessica need to work together to turn this apartment into a place both can return to, not just a place to make money," he explained. "If not, the apartment will be sold, and the money will be divided among the family members." Parker felt like a storm was approaching. But Jessica doesn't want that. "She just wants to sell it and forget everything," she said, her voice trembling. "You need to convince your sister. Otherwise, everything will be lost," Mr. Thompson said. His eyes filled with determination. "You can do it, Parker. Remember that a legacy is not just about material assets, but also about memories and love." Parker nodded. But she still had doubts in her heart. Could she convince Jessica? Did she have the strength to face the truth? As night fell, Parker decided to meet Jessica. She knew that if she didn't do this right now, everything would become worse. When she arrived at the bar where they had met before, she saw Jessica sitting alone, her expression weary and anxious. "Jessica," Parker began, "I need to talk to you about the trust fund." "Are you here to argue again?" Jessica replied, her tone somewhat sarcastic. "No, it's not like that," Parker said, trying to remain calm. "You need to understand that the apartment is not just an asset. It contains our memories, our grandfathers. Memories can't feed us, Parker," Jessica retorted, her voice rising. "I don't want to live in the past. I want to move on." "You don't understand," Parker said, a sense of desperation rising. "Grandpa left a condition. If we don't maintain the apartment together, it will be sold. We'll lose everything." Jessica was silent for a moment, her expression shifting from anger to concern. "Is that true?" Yes, Parker replied, her heart filled with hope. We can keep the apartment, but you need to work with me to make it a family space. But how? Jessica asked, her voice weakening. We could open a small cafe, host events, or even turn it into an art space. The important thing is that we need to do this together, Parker said, feeling like she was grasping a last chance. Jessica looked at Parker, her eyes shimmering with hesitation. But I don't know how to do that. I have no experience. We can learn. We can seek help from those around us. The important thing is we need to start, Parker said, her emotions welling up. And if we fail? Jessica asked, her voice filled with worry. Then at least we tried, Parker replied, her heart full of determination. We won't let Grandpa down. We won't let our family be torn apart. The conversation between the two sisters became tense, but also filled with emotions. Parker felt Jessica's hesitance, and she knew this was a chance to change everything. Jessica, you can do it. I believe in you, Parker said, her eyes full of hope. Jessica was silent for a long time, before she finally sighed. All right, big sis. I'll try. But if things don't turn out as we hope, I won't take responsibility. Parker felt like a weight had been lifted. Thank you, Jessica. We will do this together. As the two sisters returned to the apartment, the feeling of excitement and anxiety still weighed heavily on Parker's heart. She knew that turning the apartment into a family space wouldn't be easy, but at least they had a common goal. They would not give up. In the following weeks, Parker and Jessica began planning to open a cafe in the apartment. They sought help from friends and neighbors who were willing to support them on this journey. But soon, difficulties began to arise. One afternoon, while Parker was rearranging the furniture in the apartment, she received a call from Mr. Thompson. Parker, I have bad news. Your maternal family is claiming rights over the apartment. They want to sell it as soon as possible. Parker felt like everything was collapsing. They can't do that. The apartment belongs to us, she yelled, her heart full of anger. I know, but they are using every means to apply pressure. You need to prepare for a legal battle, he said, his voice serious. When Parker hung up, she felt like she was at a major crossroads. She could either continue fighting for the apartment, or she could give up and let everything wash away. But she knew that if she didn't act right now, she would lose everything. Parker decided to organize a meeting with Jessica and Mr. Thompson to discuss the situation. As they sat down together, the atmosphere in the room was tense. We need to do something right now, Parker said, her voice full of determination. If not, we'll lose the apartment. But we don't have enough money to fight a legal battle, Jessica said, her heart full of worry. We can call for support from the community. If we open the cafe and attract people, they might help us, Parker suggested. But that could take a lot of time, Mr. Thompson said, his eyes filled with concern. We need to act quickly. Parker felt like she was standing at a fork in the road. She could either continue fighting for the apartment, or she could give up and let everything wash away. But in her heart, one thing was certain, she couldn't give up. We will not give up, Parker said, her voice strong. We will fight for our grandfather's legacy together. We will not let our family be torn apart. As the meeting concluded, Parker felt like she had discovered a new strength. She decided to organize an event at the apartment where people could come to participate, support, and help them in this battle. She believed that if they could draw attention from the community, they might be able to keep the apartment. As the event day approached, Parker and Jessica worked tirelessly to prepare. They decorated the apartment, created signs, and planned activities. The feelings of excitement and anxiety welled up in Parker's heart. But she knew this was the last opportunity to save her grandfather's legacy. When the event began, the apartment was filled with laughter and support from friends and neighbors. Parker felt like she was living in a dream, but in her heart, she was still worried. Would everyone be supportive enough to help them keep the apartment? Parker. A voice called from behind. She turned around and saw Mr. Thompson approaching. I have good news. Your maternal family has agreed to meet to discuss this issue. Really? Parker asked, her heart full of hope. Yes. They want to know what we are doing, and they might reconsider their decision, he said, his eyes filled with determination. Parker felt like a weight had been lifted. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We need to take advantage of this opportunity. The meeting took place the next day. Parker and Jessica sat across from their maternal family in a conference room. The atmosphere was tense, and Parker felt like she was standing before a great challenge. We understand that this apartment is valuable to you, a member of the maternal family said. But we also need to ensure that this property is used appropriately. Parker felt like all eyes were on her. We don't just want to keep the apartment. We want to turn it into a family space where everyone can come and share memories, she said, her heart full of determination. But we can't just rely on memories. Another member of the maternal family replied. We need to consider the economic benefits. We held an event at the apartment, Parker said, trying to remain calm. We received community support. If you give us a chance, we can turn the apartment into an art space or a cafe. The maternal family looked at each other, their expressions somewhat hesitant. We need time to think about this, one of them said. Parker felt like everything had gone silent. She couldn't let this opportunity slip away. We will not give up, she said, her voice strong. We will fight for our grandfather's legacy, and we will prove that this apartment is worth more than any other asset. The meeting ended without a clear decision. Parker and Jessica returned to the apartment, their hearts full of worry. Sister, I don't know if we can do this, Jessica said, her voice somewhat weak. We can do this, Parker replied, her heart full of determination. We will not give up. Grandpa taught us that family is the most important thing. In the following days, Parker and Jessica continued to work hard to prepare for the next event. They planned an art exhibition where everyone could come to visit and support. The feeling of excitement and anxiety welled up in Parker's heart, but she knew this was the last chance to save her grandfather's legacy. As the day of the exhibition approached, Parker felt like she was standing on the brink of a storm. She couldn't give up, but she also didn't know if she had the strength to face the challenges ahead. The morning light shone through the windows of the beachside apartment, where Parker had spent her entire childhood. She sat on the sofa, holding a cup of hot tea, feeling peaceful yet full of worry. The art exhibition event had been a success, but the pressures from her maternal family still lingered. She knew that the final decision about the apartment would come in the next few hours. Jessica entered the room, her face looking somewhat tired but her eyes shining with hope. Sister, I've received word from the maternal family. They want to meet us to discuss the final decision. Parker felt her heart race. Have they made a decision already? She asked, full of anticipation. Not yet, but they want to know more about our plans. They are considering, Jessica replied, her voice filled with anxiety. All right, we need to prepare as best we can. This could be our last chance, Parker said, filled with determination. She understood that this was not just a battle over property, but also a struggle for emotions and family values. As the two sisters prepared for the meeting, Parker felt as if she stood at a major crossroads. She had to protect not only the apartment but also the memories, the values that her grandfather had left behind. She learned that heritage was not only about material possessions but also about the love and connections among family members. The meeting took place at a nearby cafe, where everyone could feel the warmth and friendliness. The maternal family had arrived, and the atmosphere in the room was tense. Parker and Jessica sat across from them, full of apprehension. "We have reviewed what you have done over the past time," a member of the maternal family began. "We see that you really want to preserve your grandfather's legacy." Parker felt a glimmer of hope. "We don't just want to keep the apartment. We want to turn it into a family space, where everyone can come and share memories," she said, her voice strong. "But we also need to consider economic interests," another member of the maternal family said. "If you can prove that the apartment can benefit the community, we will reconsider our decision." Jessica held Parker's hand, and she felt the support from her sister. "We have organized an event and received support from the community. If you give us the opportunity, we can turn the apartment into an art space or a cafe," Jessica said, her voice filled with determination. The maternal family looked at each other, their expressions somewhat hesitant. Parker felt like everything was slowing down. She couldn't let this opportunity slip away. "We won't give up," she said, her voice strong. "We will fight for our grandfather's legacy. And we will prove that this apartment is worth more than any other property." The discussion continued, and Parker felt like everything was gradually changing. They shared memories, stories about their grandfather, and what this apartment had brought to both sides of the family. The atmosphere in the room became warmer, and the walls separating them seemed to fade away. Finally, a member of the maternal family stood up. "We have decided. If you can prove that the apartment can become a family space and benefit the community, we will give you the chance to keep it." Parker felt as if a burden had been lifted. "Thank you. We won't let you down," she said, her heart full of emotion. As the meeting concluded, Parker and Jessica embraced each other, tears streaming down. They had together overcome difficulties, and now they had the chance to keep their grandfather's legacy. In the following weeks, Parker and Jessica worked tirelessly to turn the apartment into an art space and cafe. They received support from the community, and the apartment gradually became a place where people could enjoy art and share memories. Parker realized that this journey was not just about keeping an apartment, but also about rebuilding her relationship with Jessica and with herself. She learned that love and forgiveness are the most important values in life. One evening, when the lights in the apartment were on, Parker and Jessica sat together, looking out at the sea. "Sister, I feel like we have found something more precious than the apartment," Jessica said, her voice filled with emotion. "That's right, little sister. We have found connection, love, and the memories that our grandfather left behind," Parker replied, her heart warm. She knew that life would go on with new challenges, but now she felt ready to face everything. They had together overcome difficulties, and that made their relationship stronger than ever. As she looked out at the sea, Parker felt as if she had found her own path. She would not just live in the past, but would continue to build the future with the values her grandfather had taught her. She would always preserve her grandfather's legacy, not only through the apartment, but through the love and connections they had rebuilt. Ultimately, Parker realized that life is not about what we have, but about what we share with each other. And she was ready to continue her journey, with a heart full of love and gratitude.